And he took right what I was gonna, well, the scripture I was gonna use, and well, part of the scripture. But if we could all stand, and I'm going to the part where David goes after Goliath and kills him. And it's 1 Samuel 17th chapter and the 40th verse. And he took his staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook and put them in a shepherd's bag which he had, even in his scrip. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth, and ruddy, and of a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog, that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistines cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air, and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with the sword, and with the spear, and with the shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee. And I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose, and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted, and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag, and took thence a stone, and slang it, and smote the Philistines in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead. And he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with the sling and with the stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword, and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off his head therewith. And when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. You may be seated. I want to talk tonight about David. At the battle where they were fighting the Philistines, they were on both sides of the mountain, and the battleground was a valley. And let me just say right here that to get from one mountain to another, you sometimes got to go through a valley.
Right.
But they were going in, and everybody was afraid of Goliath because he was so big. And they kept on. Goliath came out day after day, taunting them. And so David came around, and he said, I'll fight him, I won't take this. And so when David went and said he would fight him, he went before Saul, and Saul gave him armor and everything. And David decided, you know what? I'm not going to use this armor. I'm going to use what I know how to use. I was slewing all these different animals with it, and I believe I can slay a giant with it. And so he took the weapon, and he took his sling, and he chose 5 smooth stones, and his stave. And he went out, and he hit the giant in the head with the sling, or with the rock from the sling, and the giant fell. Then he ran and he cut his head off. And tonight I want to say that, there are giants in this life, and we come against them every day.
Right.
And if we get that mind like David, that with God behind me, all things are possible, we can stand up against any giant. And maybe it was that when he took those 5 stones, maybe he decided, I'm going to take 5 stones because maybe there are 4 more giants that I can slay.
Right.
Maybe when he got up there and he slew Goliath, he thought to himself, you know what, this giant can come back to haunt me another day. And what I got to do, when I put my giant down, when I destroy that giant, he may get back up. I've got to destroy him.
Right.
And he took that sword and he cut his head off.
Right.
And that day, the Israelites prevailed over the Philistines. And, this is just, today, we are the youth, like the brother was saying. We've got to stand up, When other people won't fight these giants, we've got to fight them.
Right.
The adults, sometimes the adults are wiser and they know how to pick their fights. And us as youth, sometimes we don't really use our head. We just run around and do dumb stuff. But that's the mindset we need to get when we're facing giants. We need to stand up and say, you know what? I don't care how big this giant is. I don't care what this giant can do. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to defeat him. Because you know, when I defeat him, the people around me will prevail. That day, the Israelite army, they chased the Philistines and defeated the Philistines because David stood up and said, I'm not going to stop here.
That's right.
I'm going to destroy him.
Yeah.
And so they had a great victory that day.
Amen.
And it's just, you know, when we get that mindset,
Yes, amen.
all things are possible.
Right.
Amen.
Amen. Glory to God. That was good. Amen. When we get our mindset, young people,